Heal to feel. Let's start this journey together.
If I had you guys in, I'd say, hey, you, right here. What's one thing that you can do today to make this relationship better, not worse? And you'd say, yeah, but she.
Oh gosh.
And I would say, what is, you have 100% control over your actions and your choices. What is one thing you can do today and going forward to make this relationship better, not worse? Write it down. And I'm going to write it down. That's your home plate. It's only one thing. All therapy is experimentation.
Hi, Lisa Makenberg. Welcome to Heal to Feel.
Leah, thank you. And MJ, thank you so much for inviting me on this amazing podcast.
Thank you for coming. Lisa Makenberg was my mentor in hypnotherapy school, and she was the best teacher, the most fun, had the most fun and entertaining classes. And she's all research-based. Her husband's a doctor, very left brain. We do everything by research. And one of my first experiences with Lisa, she taught a lot of you taught classes that were in human sexuality and how relationships work. So we'll get back into that later. But Lisa actually has really cool stories. I actually got into hypnotherapy because I wanted to learn past life regression. And so I'm very much into souls and reincarnation. And at least one of the first stories that I want you to tell, and we'll get into what you do and how you do it. But Lisa fell pregnant with IVF with triplets. And so I'm going to have you tell the story because this will blow everybody's mind.
Well, thank you so much, Liad. And by the way, I always say that research is my co-therapist. So my husband and I had a fertility journey, went to see the best fertility doctor for women with advanced maternal age. That means 36. Yeah. And on the first try with hypnotherapy and with the doctor, because hypnosis is good, drugs are also good. Yes. We want to look at, it's not mind body connection or Western medicine. It's not an either or, it's an and. So use the best of mind body connection, the best of Western medicine. I had in vitro. The first time I was so blessed, I conceived 3.
Triplets.
Does that mean that they transferred 3 embryos?
So this is very important. This is part of the story, and we'll get back to this. I made 19 wonderful embryos, zygotes, 8 cells, in a petri dish. 19. And they said, well, how many do you want? I said, all right, put in 4, because I'm not going to selectively terminate. Not for me, but for anybody who chooses, but not for me. So I took 4 zygotes, 8 cells. My husband looked at them through a microscope and said, bye, I'll see you in 9 months.
Oh,
True, as they were in the dish. They picked 4, they implanted them. And when I went back 6 weeks later, there were 3 sacs. I went back 1 week later. One of them had absorbed back into my body. And there were 2 big, beautiful sacs. And it looks like a black hole with a flashing light. That's the heartbeat.
So one doesn't make it at 7 weeks. So now she's going to be pregnant with twins.
Beautiful twin sons. The light of my life, Jake and Max. But my soul yearned for that third one. So I said to my husband, you know what? The family's not complete. He said, the doctor says no more pregnancies for you. You just can't get pregnant. You have 1 bad tube, 1 bad ovary. So that's it. We'll adopt. So we started to make that plan. But then, well, my husband and I had a glorious, intimate encounter. And I said to him,
Ooh la
yeah, we
la.
are going to talk about sex, I promise.
Yeah, we'll
I
get
like
there.
that.
And I looked at my
Just as
husband.
I was starting to cry,
Oh,
she's like,
oh,
it gets
just
sexy.
wait.
oh,
Just
yes.
wait.
Yes. And I said to my husband, I just felt a soul fly into my body. And he said, good, you talk to your imaginary friends, you know.
I like your husband.
Yeah, it's like, good for you. He said, I know. I know.
He says
Man,
left brain as they come. He's a
Yeah,
doctor.
he's a
he
man.
seems
And he said, we'll take a look and we'll see about adopting. But 2 weeks later, the test turned 2 lines. And I said to my husband, I'm pregnant. And he said, and the twins are 15 months. And when you have twin boys, it's like giving birth to ping pong balls. And they had one brain and four hands. There was nothing they couldn't get into. There was nothing they couldn't climb. There was nothing they couldn't open. There was nothing they couldn't escape from. I thought that I had poison control on speed dial and I have everything locked up. And my husband looks at me and he says, how did this happen? And I told him that when a man and a woman have a strong feeling come over them, they do a magic hug. And sometimes God puts the exact right soul in the lady's womb. And
especially if you're in your bathing suit, then it's even more potent.
and I said, you're a doctor. Were you absent that day? And he got really mad before he laughed and laughed. Well, we had our beautiful daughter. We were going to name her Ariella, but she gave me some kick. And I know that's no Ariella. This is a Rena Leora, the joy of light. So Rena, she named herself in my womb because I'm a hypnotherapist. And I can say that. You guys can't say. I can say that. I can say that. So one day I drop off the boys at preschool. I take her to go out in the car. We're going to go and sing the Wheels on the Bus at Mommy and Me. And she says to me, Mommy,
From inside.
2 years old.
2 years old.
Okay.
And
She's
very
2 years
verbal.
old in the car seat. Go ahead.
And why was she so verbal? I don't have any idea where she got that from. And she would sit and have full-on conversations with the boys. And she's 2. And she says to me, Mommy, I was here before. You were? She says, oh, yes, I used to live in your tummy, but I got so scared, I turned off my light. But then I got so brave. I came back to your tummy. I turned on my light. Here I am.
Yep. And didn't she say, I'm so happy I found you again?
At that point, I said, because I'm thinking, okay, what do you do? What do you say? And I said, I remember the day you turned off your light. And I remember the day you turned your light back on. And I'm happy you were so brave. And she said, yes, I found you. And I turned my light back on.
And there you have it. For people that experience miscarriages, sometimes the soul isn't ready or they need more time. It's nothing, it's not your fault. It's right. It's a decision by the soul a lot of the time.
The soul can't be afraid. And then the soul becomes very brave. And they don't necessarily come through you, but I promise you'll find each other again.
Love that. Love, love. And she's basically like a twin,
Well,
right? To
she's
the
like a
boys.
triplet.
Yeah,
And
like a triplet
She's the
to the
triplet.
boys.
yeah,
Yeah, she is.
well, that's not the end of the story.
Oh, keep going.
All right. Remember how I told you that I made 19 beautiful 8-celled zygotes, embryos, in a petri dish over at the doctor's office in South Bay. After I had my daughter, the clinic called me and said, you have 13 embryos left over. We can wash them down the sink.
Obviously not.
We can give them to research. We can give them to another family, or we can throw them back in the freezer for another 5 years and send you an invoice. Again, I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm allowed to say this. I took a moment. The embryos came to me in a vision, and they said, we want the opportunity to live in a human womb. We want the possibility for life. So I called the clinic back. I talked to my husband too. Yes, I do have a husband. I do factor him in. Um, and I called the clinic. I said, give them to a family that needs embryos. And I actually wrote a letter to the embryos and included a picture of my husband and I. And we crossed it off our list until a family took them, a mom and dad took them. And because of their worldview, religious beliefs, swore they would never, ever, ever tell another living soul, including their own twin daughters, that they were in vitro, never expecting that 23andMe would be invented.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, just wait.
Okay.
Here we go.
So it's a longer story, but they not only found out they had no biological connection to their mom or dad, they found the picture. The letter was shredded. They found the picture. And my daughters used reverse facial recognition to find our digital footprint, which is why it's very important that this podcast, that everybody watches it,
Yes.
found Jake and Max, who are quads. They all lived in the
Quads?
same dish together.
Isn't that not insane?
And my daughter, who's their full biological sister, they have no connection to their mom or their dad biologically. They are fully, my husband and I children, they are full siblings with Jake, Max, and Raina. They tracked us down, and we are all connected. The most surreal moment of my entire life was not when Raina said, I turned off my light, but I turned it back on because I'm brave. The most surreal moment of my life is watching my 5 biological siblings play on the beach in their 20s. My girls are 23, my daughter's 26, my sons are 28.
And they look just one of the twin daughters looks like Lisa's twin.
Looks like I cloned
Clone.
myself.
So you're saying that years later, when they became adults, they found each other? They tracked you guys down?
They tracked us down. The scary thing, friends and audience, is they grew up 30 minutes. And they're all in their 20s. If they met at a bar
30 minutes what?
from
each
us,
other.
if they had met at a bar, if they met at college, if they met at a party and fallen in love, I mean,
Well, it would be like doppelganger, though.
And tell them about the prom dress.
No.
This is crazy.
They picked out the same prom dress.
Yep. Yep.
and they didn't even know that each other existed. I have them side by side in my phone. Who knew that was there a genetic marker for prom dresses?
Right?
Is that
That's
not a
so
crazy story?
wild. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. It's really, really an incredible story.
Oh my God. So many thoughts and questions. So, in a way, you're saying for those of us who are thinking about that third child symbolically or literally, you are connecting, whether it's in this life or another life. You're eventually, it might take another time to reconnect with these people, but you had the faith that you were going to connect even in on this world with the others, and then in the same lifetime with your daughter, your third.
Yes. Well, what I want everybody to know is that you want to take a deep breath and release fear and embrace curiosity and wisdom. So, for those who are thinking about another child, a first child, a second child, a third child, take a breath, release fear and ego, and embrace intuition and curiosity, and ask this realm, is there another soul waiting to connect with my family? Then come into trust. And whether it comes biologically through you, whether you adopt, or whether you mentor somebody, or have a grandchild, or your best friend's kid, you trust that the right souls will connect with you at exactly the right time.
Because if you have a contract with the soul before you come in here, and it's free will. So you decide last minute, you know what, I don't want to have a third child. But you had a soul contract with that child, they will come into your life. For example, you have a neighbor, the parents aren't really present. So the soul's kind of like growing up in your house.
Right.
That's a way that they can come into your life.
Absolutely. And so replacing fear with trust.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
My mother-in-law, she said, because she has two biological boys, and then she ended up having two more boys that came that way through the neighborhood. And
Mhm.
both of the two other boys that came later, one of them being my husband, was someone who didn't have the mom and dad presence. Um, and both of the boys came back, and she said, I just knew, I had a feeling that there were going to be more than these two biological sons. And they're all about a year apart, pretty much.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
May I add one more thing for anybody out there, anybody who's had any kind of reproductive assistance to create their family? Please make it part of the story you tell your children from the first minute that they're born, the story of you. Because the most painful thing, I don't want to
Mm.
speak for them, but I think it was very painful for the girls to realize that the story that they were told about their creation, the story of you, was not 100% transparent. And what my son Max said was, Mom, we're surprised, but we're not shocked because we always knew that you gave the embryos in our dish to another family.
So they knew.
And they were not, didn't feel deceived, betrayed, or not given vital information that they needed to feel rooted, secure, and held in this world.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. So, moving on to the next subject, because
Okay.
that's just such a crazy
Ooh.
subject in itself. There's a lot. There's a lot to cover in this hour. Um, So Lisa was my mentor, and we're going to talk a little about hypnotherapy and pain management, how it can really work. So that day, I never missed a Lisa Makenberg class. I was obsessed. Okay. And so this day, I had a very, very horrible, I think it was hormonal migraine. I took Advil, I took, Tylenol, I took Excedrin. I mean, the whole day I could not kill this migraine. And so I'm sitting with my friend in the coffee shop. I'm like, I don't care. I'm still going to class. I can't see straight, but I'm not missing a class. So, by the grace of God and the way the universe aligned, we get to class, and Lisa's like, the topic for today is pain management. So, I'm sitting in front of the class. Now, go ahead. What did you do to me on that class?
Remember how I said that research is my co therapist?
Yes.
And what a migraine is we have this thing that splits the hemispheres of our brain. And when blood begins to amass on one side, it can't flow through both hemispheres. It hurts. You can get nausea and visual disturbances and light sensitivity because we don't have the flow through blood. So, what's the solution? Get the blood to move up out of the brain and then have it come back and rebalance, and boom, you're done.
Okay.
Okay?
So, what did you do?
So,
Magician.
imagine put someone in. What you want to do is put someone into a theta state. That means slowing down the brain waves from 14 to 13, 12, 11, 10, 8.
I think I'm going to fall asleep.
Yeah, I know.
This
Hypnosis,
is
slow down the brain waves, very, very, very natural. It's from evolution or the divine or both, who knew? And then put in a visualization where the brain thinks you're actually there and it responds physiologically. So imagine or visualize that you are at the most beautiful winter resort. I think it's Telluride, by the way. And you're out at a resort and it's cold and snowy, and you can see the snow on the mountains. And when the sun shines, it looks like 100 dancing diamonds. But then you're at this beautiful resort, and there's two big jacuzzis, one on either side. And they're so hot, it takes you a while to get used to it. And you put both hands into the hot, hot jacuzzi, Spread your fingers and feel your hands getting warmer and warmer, warmer and warmer, and the coolness is on your face and cheekbones and chin. And as the hands get warmer and warmer, what I did is I took Liat's hand, and actually it's happening now. You know what? You're still suggestible to me. Her hands actually started to get very, very hot, and they began to turn a beautiful rosy um, color because the blood was rushing down to her fingertips. And what it does is it pulls the blood away from where it's pooled, comes down into the hands. You're changing the blood flow. And then as you count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, eyes open, wide awake, it comes back up, it rebalances, and
Dude, I woke up, gone. I couldn't believe it. Gone.
the body responded by shifting the blood flow away from where it was pooled on one side of your brain.
So that's the power of hypnosis, guys. Like your mind is so, so powerful. There's hypnotherapists that have done hypno anesthesia for people. Like there was this woman, I remember they showed it in class. There was a woman that she was allergic and had to get like dental work. And they did, a hypnotherapist sat with her and did the whole procedure without anesthesia.
That's insane.
Yeah. So that's the power behind hypnosis and being able to control so many things.
Well, I can prove it to everybody listening. Remember that fight you had with your mom 20 years ago? If you can remember that fight you had with your mom 20 years ago, raise your hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can.
Good job, producer people. Um, if you think about it, if you really think about it, you'll get mad all over again. Your
Yeah.
eyes will dilate. You'll feel a lump in your throat. You'll get rapid breathing. It was 20 years ago. And just by bringing up that memory, you are changing your physiological body. And that's someone who's skeptical, who's listening today. Everybody can remember that and say, wow, I can feel my body changing because of what I'm doing with my magnificent mind.
Incredible. Let's talk about sex and
Oh, let's
relationships.
talk about sex. You know what?
This was the best class. This is what Lisa thrived in. So bring your questions, anything
Okay.
you want to know. But what I want to start out by saying is, a lot of books out there are men versus women. Men are like this, women are like this. Men are like this, women are like this. Would you agree? Or is there another route that you've taken?
You know, we all want to stay away from stereotypes and labels. They are confining, they are rigid, and according to my co therapist, they're not accurate. Especially if you look out in the world, stick your face out the window, you can see, even in nature, males and females do not react a certain way across all species. So, what if there was another paradigm, Liat and MJ? What if there was another paradigm? What if there was a dichotomy? What if there were feelers and thinkers? Feelers whose priorities are love and sex and romance and spontaneity and loving being the center of attention. Then there are thinkers, and thinkers value stability, relationship, predictability, and they like their spontaneity planned 6 weeks in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And to have a good relationship, we need one of each. If you have two thinkers, you'll be very rich, but you won't have a lot of sex. Okay. If we have two feelers, well, anyone watch the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's? Who
Of
has the
course.
yeah,
Classic.
who asked the question, what's going to happen with these two lovely, spontaneous people with absolutely no impulse control? What's going to happen when the rent is due next month? So we can have a lot of sex, a lot of agony and ecstasy, a lot of makeup sex, but we might not have a lot of executive functioning planning going on. So, what happens when we get one thinker and one feeler? Well, these two people, just like some enchanted evening, will see each other across a crowded room and they will have this attraction. And then when they meet, they will both pretend to be what they think the other person wants because it's called dopamine. Research, my co-therapist.
So is this considered the honeymoon period?
Oh, yeah. This is when everybody's trying to figure out what the other one needs to fall madly, passionately, profoundly in love with them.
Questions, questions. Okay. So, how about this couples fight, right? That sounds like this. How come we're not like the way we used to be? How come in the beginning we used to do this and we used to do that and we used to have the and we used to and I'm going to give you like a couple of examples that come to mind. My husband, for example, will say, "You used to cook for me." Okay? And I will say, "Well, we used to lay in bed and just stare at each other for hours, perhaps days." So, I won't answer it because I can if I feel like if you don't, but like, what about that?
Okay. So, first of all, MJ, the first fight you ever had will be the last fight you ever had.
What do you
You're
mean?
welcome.
Oh,
So if you fought about money, that was the first fight you ever had, right before you divorce or somebody drops dead, that'll be the last fight. The first fight's always the last fight you have. And if you think about it in your life, the first fight you ever had was the last fight you had 6 weeks from last Tuesday. It's the
okay.
same thing. So watch this. When the fight is, you used to cook for me. I was the center of your world. You used to stare at me. I was the center of your world. You just wanted to look into my eyes and see my soul. I would look at you and your handsome husband and say, how beautiful that you have that in common. There's the common denominator. You miss each other. You both have the same thing. That means that you're both looking for the same thing. That's amazing. And I would ask, I would look you in the eye and I'd say, you know what? What did he just say? And what does he need? And the only definition of true love, there's only one. Well, there's three. The first one is
You're
that
like, what is
There's
it?
only one. Well, there's three.
yes. The one is that true love is you honor your partner's priorities. The second one is that the relationship is the priority, not your needs, not your needs, not my needs, not
That's
their
so
needs.
smart.
That's true.
The
So
relationship.
brilliant.
The relationship is the priority. And if you go to couples counseling, the patient is the relationship.
Mhm.
Mm,
The relationship is the priority.
I love that.
And
The
in counseling
relationship is
is
the
the patient.
patient.
The
Yes.
relationship is the
Wow.
So
patient.
if I had you guys in, I'd say, hey, you, right here, what's one thing that you can do today to make this relationship better, not worse? And you'd say, yeah, but she.
Oh gosh.
And I would say, what is, you have 100% control over your actions and your choices. What is one thing you can do today and going forward to make this relationship better, not worse? Write it down. And I'm going to write it down. That's your home play. It's only one thing. All therapy is experimentation.
So do you see couples?
The way I'm going to answer that, MJ, is I am not trained in couples counseling. However, I certainly understand how family of origin impacts how people show up in relationships, being either thinkers or feelers. So I don't ever see couples, but I do teach teeny weeny, itsy bitsy, tiny little relationship classes. Sometimes there's only two people.
I love that because what you said could have such a huge impact.
It's
That's
legal.
amazing.
It's legal
That's right.
because it's under education. It's
That's
not under counseling.
amazing. That's
Right.
amazing.
Right. Because you really just got to the core and the belly of what is wanted is that what did you hear each other say?
Right.
And that lesson is the best takeaway. If you gave me just that, then I have enough to go in and contribute to my relationship in the most meaningful way. It's just it says everything, you know? Like, and then of course I want to come back and like battle it a little bit and
Yeah,
say,
but
what about, yeah, what about this?
Defensive.
What about that? So,
You.
right. So, I don't know if we're going there because I could easily ask you more. I don't know if we're
I
going to the next or
well,
you, yeah, you
Go
tell
ahead.
me.
I wanna just forgive me. I'm going to
Sure.
intrude
Go ahead.
because I like to intrude. I also like to impose. So if I was teaching you and your handsome husband a tiny, teeny, tiny, little tiny class, because I don't do any couples counseling, but I do teach small relationship classes, I'd ask you, what is one thing you can do today to make things better? Then I would ask him, what's one thing you can do today to make things better, not worse? You're going to experiment with us for 7 days. 7 days. And you're not allowed to look and say, but you promised at Lisa's office, you promised to XYZ 123 MOUSC. You're not allowed to say that.
MOUSC? Ah! Wait, I want to steal that. Can you say it again, please?
Yes. So when you are home with your handsome husband, you're not going to put your hands on your hips and pull up your finger and say, but you promised Lisa that you were going to 123 ABC MOUSC. Instead, you are allowed to go back and to lead by example. You are the matriarch of this beautiful, beautiful family. And you are going to lead by example and say, today I choose to do the thing that I promised. I choose to follow through with my intention, no, my commitment. And then let's see what he does with that. When you say that, lead by example. And then we check back in 7 days. If it's working, we continue. And then we add one more thing.
Oh, like what?
Whatever else, what else can you do?
What is one more thing that you
I
can
like it.
do for your relationship?
Now we have two.
Oh my gosh, I can't think. What would
And
the other thing
it
be?
really does shift. It comes back to the whole what we talked about in a couple of the other episodes. If you change what you're doing instead of waiting for the other person to
It's
change.
like mirroring with children.
Yeah.
Don't expect them to behave a different way from the way that they see you. So modeling, I said mirroring, I meant modeling.
Monkey
Modeling,
see, monkey do.
yeah, so modeling behavior is what I read. We're supposed to make sure the example is what we're living.
Well, I'll make you a podcast. I'll make everybody a money back guarantee for everything they're paying for this podcast today. Your children will never do what you say. They'll always do what you do. And you can't teach containment if you don't have it. That's it. That's parenting. There's nothing else that you have to know.
What is
Nothing.
containment?
Self regulation. You can't teach self regulation unless you have self regulation.
Correct.
So they won't do what you say, but they will do what you do.
They mirror your nervous system.
They're tiny little
Oh,
magnifying
right.
glasses.
So if you're always erratic and you expect them to be calm,
No. I actually think I'm more like too calm, that I'm wondering if I'm giving them too much range to be, like not have the boundary. Cause I can, if there's one thing I can do is I can remain calm.
yeah, you're good at that.
And I learned also that, well, this is a question too, that, the people that are capable of self-regulating their emotions are the richest people on the planet
Oh,
because they can you
okay.
talk about that
Oh, yeah.
briefly?
The reason is because of executive function. Executive function is the ability to make an action now that optimizes a good outcome in the future. It's just like playing the trombone. The more you practice executive function, the easier it becomes. Can I give you the 4 steps?
Oh,
Yeah,
please.
I love it.
Okay. This is for everybody who wants abundance. It's easy, it's only 4 steps. One, identify the problem. You identify the problem, you're 25% of the way there. That's pretty good, huh? Two, create a solution. 50% there. Three, make a plan. A solution is not a plan. Be more organized. That's a solution, but it's not a plan. A plan is the night before, write down 3 things that I can do between breakfast and lunch that will make my day epic. In the morning, review the 3. Between breakfast and lunch, Complete the 3. That's a plan. So now, with your permission, MJ and Liat, I'm going to talk about life coaching versus hypnosis. So, the way that we're created by evolution or the divine is that only 12% of the brain is logic, reason, willpower. That's the thing that's never there when you need it. A voice and superior judgment. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you have a friend, or you have 2 friends, Sally and Bob. Sally and Bob look in the mirror and they want to lose weight for their light and healthy body. And Sally and Bob go down to the buffet right there in in Lake Tahoe, and there is a rainbow of fruits and vegetables. There are lean, healthy proteins. There are sprouted grains. There's cheesecake, pizza, pasta, cheesecake, and cheesecake. There's also cheesecake. And they look at the buffet, and their 12% says, let's eat the rainbow of fruits and vegetables. Get that sprouted grain and some of that lean, beautiful salmon.
Yeah.
And the 88%, which is the rest of consciousness, wants to do what is familiar, what kept them alive yesterday. The association. What I did yesterday, I'm alive today. Obviously, it was the right thing. It's familiar, it's associated. I remember I did X, I didn't die, and I felt pretty good. I think I'll do that today. And then they take a vote 88 versus 12. So, to answer your question, if you have a life coach who says to you the night before, write down the 3 things you're going to do, and the person says, what a wonderful logical idea. I'm going to use my willpower to do that. So, your life coach is just like your nutritional coach. But what would happen if you added a trance state that opens up the door with intention between the conscious and subconscious mind? For example, do you drive a car?
Yes.
Do you drive a car?
Mhm.
Do you drive a car? The trigger is the green light. The action is touching the gas. The result is getting closer to your destination. What if eating? What if writing down your through things and following through was easy, automatic, habitual, and subconscious, just like driving your car?
Question. Last night, my girlfriend and I were chatting, and she said, my husband is coming home and he's overweight and he wants to lose weight. He's tried everything. He's even had lap band and all of those different kinds of surgeries. Um, And I said, well, maybe his brain doesn't shut off and tell him when he's full. And she says, because no matter what, he says, even if it's 10 o'clock at night, he wants me to cut him up melon and give him that food. And so, north of 40, there's a lot of things we can't do. And he had that struggle with overweightness from majority of his adulthood. So, do you believe that yellow light, green light, red light is something that people can apply learn to apply toward knowing when to stop eating if they've been overeating all their lives?
Society or your doctor telling you won't do anything, your wife telling you won't do anything. When you look in the mirror and say, I no longer tolerate this in myself, then at least we've opened up a possibility. And then when he picks himself up, calls, goes, and then talks about when he eats, what is the need? The need is to feel good, to feel full, to feel abundant, to feel satisfied, to have that pleasant anticipation. Sweetheart, go down to the kitchen and cut me some melon. That is the feeling of being taken care of and loved. Those are the needs. The urge is to eat. The need is to feel taken care of, positive anticipation, and to feel satisfied and sensation. So, what would happen if you met the need? The urge would go away.
Mm-hmm.
So we would ask your friend's husband, who just came home and wants to lose weight because he doesn't want to have a health crisis. He wants to prevent a health crisis.
Yes.
We'd say to him, what are the needs? And with your magnificent problem solving, these are these big, beautiful frontal lobes, what else would give you that amazing lift? What would meet those needs? Because if I could offer you a bigger, better solution, would you be curious? I know I would. And then we'd find out what his ideas are, not my ideas, not your ideas, not your ideas. What are your ideas about what would give you that same kind of joy? Because eating is supposed to be about joy and savoring, never, ever, ever about deprivation. So once your friend's husband gives me the bigger, better option, we, with delight, with intention, open up the door between the subconscious and conscious mind. We put in the trigger. Remember, the trigger is the green light. The trigger is, I want to eat. Wow, that's a great trigger. Then easily, automatically, subconsciously, we make it familiar to go for the bigger, better solution. We've met the need. And then in real life, since we rehearsed it and became familiar, in real life, the next time he wants to go for that extra food, he has a neural pathway to go for the alternate solution that gives him the same benefit without all of the liabilities or the risks.
Question.
Yes.
When I soothe my son at night in bed before he falls asleep, sometimes I worry if giving him love and comfort is going to translate into my friend's husband's problem.
How old's your son?
He'll be 6 soon.
And that's excellent. And he wants you to stay with him before bed?
Sure. At bedtime, our routine is to read some books, and he loves for mommy to lay in bed, of course, next to him, where we get to talk about some of the most, fun, vulnerable moments of the day, and we tell stories and things like that. But because of this overeating problem, which I think I also have, right? Where I'm like, whenever I'm busy, I don't think about food because I'm stimulated and I'm excited and I'm out and busy and productive. But when I am bored and idle, I love to my favorite thing to do at home is to lay down and gradually take a fork just to like little bit of it at a time and watch my favorite show. But because not even making it about the guy anymore, making it about myself and not wanting to pass any bad habits to my son, I often wonder if instant gratification that you get from a new toy can translate into adulthood as this self fulfilling prophecy.
By being present, by listening, by meeting those needs for comfort with talk and making all feelings okay. If you want to have some fun with your son, start with what was the worst part of your day. Kids love this. Don't ask what was the best part because, like, wow. But say, what was the worst part of your day? What was the best part? What surprised you? And when we have these types of discussions, we learn how to soothe by having self reflection because there was a listening ear. To answer your question, you're teaching your son that when he is stressing, to stop and do some self reflection. That can't possibly be bad. And may I recommend at 5, no new toys. What you're going to do is you're going to put the toys in 3 categories, a third, and a third, and start rotating them.
Hmm. Right.
When you rotate them and put them in bins like the Thomas the Train and the dinosaurs and the cars, um, and then start rotating them.
And he would refuse that,
He will
but
really if he hasn't seen it in 3 months,
oh
and you
no, he
suddenly
would forget. He would forget
if
immediately.
you put all the Hot Wheels and the tracks away for 3 months on a calendar, and you had the dinosaurs, and you had some of the little video games, and the big slides and stuff out in the park. And then 3 months later, you pulled out the Hot Wheels. I
Right.
promise you, he'll be captivated.
Totally.
Now, I'm going to teach you something about instant gratification, because another way to have abundance is to delay gratification. Are you ready? How about I teach you how to have your kid never, ever, ever buy on credit? Would you like that? Unless it's a house or a car. Would you
Sure.
like that? Would you like that?
Absolutely.
Never buy on credit. Watch this. So, who has grandmama?
Oh,
Did grandmama ever send $10 on the birthday or $15 on the birthday?
Mhm.
Okay. Grandmama has sent $15 for your birthday. We're going to go to the store. I will show you all the numbers. You can get up to this amount. So your son, your daughter, or your son, pick out something that's $22. Everything in your being is going to scream, get it, and have him work off the extra $7.
Mhm.
You just taught your kid how to buy on credit.
Mm.
Instead, you say, nope, we don't have it. So you can either wait for Hanukkah or Christmas or Easter, or someone else to send you money and walk out with nothing, or you can pick something else. And you will take a screaming 5-year-old, 6-year-old, because it's his birthday. That's why evolution or the divine made us bigger than 6-year-olds. You will take a screaming 6-year-old out of the store, and you'll say, tomorrow is another opportunity to either wait till you have the money or pick something else.
I'm screwed because I have
Uh,
indulged too much.
Same. It's the fight I always have with Trevor, because my husband grew up with nothing, so he wants to give, the kids everything. And I said,
Independence.
you have, like, now I'm having them earn and do chores, and I'm like, you can't. He has to learn to save, and otherwise they don't appreciate it the
Right. So
same
we're
way.
not screwed if we want to implement something new.
No. And I have good
I
news.
just started implementing it.
Wait, I have good news for Liat. I
Oh,
have the best news you've ever heard ever.
please.
And you're never going to fight with Trevor over this again, I
Great.
promise. Ready? How would you like to teach your beautiful children flexibility?
Love it.
Okay. With mom, you have to earn it. With dad, you don't.
Oh, so he gets the easy way out.
That's right.
So I'm the
Because
bad cop, as
nope,
usual.
nope. You know why? Because now he learns that people are
We're
different.
Mm.
The same way that sometimes if you have, how do you say water in Farsi?
Ob.
Sometimes if you bring in grandma who only speaks Farsi, your child knows how to say, Mom, I want some water, and knows how to say to grandma, I want some ab. Say it in Farsi.
Ob bede bi zahmat.
Just like that. And your child knows. So you don't fight.
Oh yeah, they know how to play.
And when they
My
grow
son
up-
knows how to play both
So
of
it's
us.
all right. And you say it with mom. And okay, a story about me. So the kids are in Hebrew school. What? And the Rabbi Levi Kunin, says, all right, class, who knows a rule of keeping kosher? And Max, ooh, 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 ooh. Yes, Mordechai. He says you can eat shrimp with your dad, but not your mom. That is a rule
I'm
of
so-
keeping kosher.
That's amazing. One last question that I quickly wanted to touch on, because we didn't get to talk about it, because I know like sex is such a big category for
Yes.
people. And with the thinkers and feelers, I know that in the honeymoon stage, because the thinkers become feelers, it's not, and they're used to stability, right? The thinkers like stability, but in the honeymoon phase, it's not stable, right? Because they don't get the I love you. It's not a relationship yet.
We're
So they're
both
more
feelers, right?
inclined to have sex a lot. Then when they become back to themselves, when you say, okay, after 6 months, they go back to themselves.
And one day,
And one day, all of a sudden the thinkers are like, okay, I don't have to have sex so much, whether it's a man or woman, right? Because an
it's not
orgasm,
gender.
because
gender.
their biggest fear for the thinkers is loss of control. Having an orgasm is losing control. So the thinkers, it's a lot for them, right? So it's not every day, but right in the honeymoon period, it's every day. I'll let you talk more on it. The feelers, it's easier for them. They don't mind losing control. Their biggest fear is rejection, correct? So can you just do a little quick little talk on sex? Because I feel like the first fight when the thinker goes back to being themselves and now they don't want sex every day, especially we're taught that men always want it. But what happens if you have a thinker that's a man and a feeler that's a woman, and now the man doesn't want sex every day? It doesn't mean they don't love you. All of a sudden, the woman's feeling rejected, and that usually becomes the first fight.
Yes, it does. So what happens is the relationship is the priority, and true love is honoring your person's priority. So we teach how to fight. So we would have someone say, I married you because I trust you. I am feeling rejected. Look how vulnerable that is, because you don't seem to be so wildly attracted to me anymore. And we can have the other person say, I'm so glad you're talking about this. Sometimes I feel out of control and burdened by having to perform. And that is scary and distracting to me.
But they're obviously not going to say that
But we
in
can
relation.
teach people
Yeah.
how to say, I want to act out. I want to play games. I want to reject you. But instead, I'm choosing to come to you with an open heart. And at that point, we can teach the thinker how to honor the other's priority by what can you do to make it better? I can come forward with affection. I might not be ready for sex, and people shouldn't have sex. They shouldn't ever feel um, compelled or coerced into having sex to fix it, because that's abusive, in my very humble opinion. But
That's not even good sex or real sex because it's not the exchange of what you wanted to have.
thank you. But you can come up in the kitchen and put on some music and dance. You can come up behind someone and give them a hug while they cook. You can have more touching, more phone calls during the day, more I love yous.
And thinkers need more foreplay because their mind and body are not connected the way feelers are.
Yeah.
So you do need to, whether it's a man or a woman, I think we tend to categorize instead of men versus women, but I do think there's two categories.
You want to hear something that thinkers love when it comes to sex?
Mm-hmm.
A fairly stable schedule. Like on Saturday night, the kids go over to grandma and we put on music and we dance and we cook for each other and we start with a massage and we end with joyous lovemaking. On Tuesday nights, when we put the kids on with a Nickelodeon, Tuesday night or Tuesday mornings and Saturday nights. And that way the physical always
Or the
knows
feeler.
the feel,
Yeah.
excuse me, then the feeler always knows that it's coming up. And the thinker can have that mental foreplay.
Mm.
And then we can send each other sexy, sexy texts. Um, and of course, we do want that spontaneity. But if we have a flexible schedule, then everybody gets their needs met. Now, the feelers, there's nothing worse than a rejected feeler. They
Yeah.
act out and they want to boil your bunny. Did anyone ever see, what was it called? Fatal Attraction. That was what happens when we have a rejected, that was an extreme,
Yeah.
fictionalized, what happens when you reject a feeler. They can lose it. They can want to act out in destructive ways. Men can get, we won't mention anyone from the news, but Men feelers who are rejected can get violent. Women can get vindictive. Men can get violent. Women can get violent. And men can get vindictive. It's not gender based. But what we want to do, we want to teach the feeler how to send fun chats, fun texts during the day. And we want to teach the feeler how to
The
say,
rabbit boiler.
yeah, yes, how to say to yourself, he's working so hard. And when I'm patient, I can have it all. So my husband is such a high feeler. You have to take a pulse to make sure he's still.
You mean a
love us.
thinker?
Such a thinker.
He's all thinker.
I have to take a pulse. I
So
have to
does
make
he
sure he's
never want
alive.
sex?
Well, I'm 65. He's 70. And so we have it on the schedule. The schedule. It's scheduled. And it has been, we have, of course, the twins and my daughter. They 3 kids, 2 years and 1 month apart. So it went from the time they were bitty, it went onto the schedule. So I knew it was coming, and he knew that there was this kind of marital intimacy so that he could feel respected, grounded, that this was a good sexual romantic marriage. And but I have to tell you what my thinker husband said. So the doctor says, after I have the twins, you're gonna have to wait 6 weeks before sex. Now I don't know if you remember what it's like 6 weeks after having a baby.
Oh,
And I had the twins, and my husband looks at me, and I'm still look like I'm carrying like 6 more in there. And I said, I don't feel very beautiful. He said, you are the first woman ever created. You've never looked sexier. You are Eve.
He said that?
Aww.
What a great guy.
He wanted sex. It'd been 6 weeks.
Well, he's a good negotiator.
So once every 6 weeks is good for him.
It would be, we put it on the schedule.
Yeah. And the last thing I just want to touch on too, guys, is when you have a fight with your partner, thinker and feeler, very different, right? The feeler wants to talk about it right away because they process it very quickly. The thinker might need a moment to process. So don't get discouraged. Let them have their space, right? So they can think first.
What we want to do is say, I have something on my heart. I married you because I trust you. Get permission. When is a good time to discuss this and create solutions? Because your only agenda, if you have a fight and someone wins, both people are pretty bruised and battered. The only reason for a fight is how do we get back to love? And if you focus on how can we get back to love, what is your solution? The other person will be benevolent, I promise. I married you because I trust you. What is your solution to this challenge? What would happen if you and your husband, that's how you faced every conflict? What would that be like?
Love it. Love it. Any more questions for Lisa before we wrap up? And then I'd like you to share where people can reach you if they want a session or any of your classes.
I mean, mine is when can you come back? Because I feel like we could
There's so
do
much.
more.
There's
Yeah.
so much to cover.
So my name is Lisa Makenberg. I'm known as the Hypnomom, thehypnomom.com.
Thehypnomom.com.
I also teach up at HMI College of Hypnotherapy. And if you look at HMI College of Hypnotherapy, you can find all of my information. Call me. I answer my own phone.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Yay.
That was incredible. Thank you for coming,
Thank you
Lisa.
so much for being here. That was incredible.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this week's episode of Heal to Feel. You can write in and ask your questions on our show's IG page at H2F Pod, and we'll address your questions on next week's episode. If this episode helped you, we would love for you to share it with your friends and family. Share the fun with all those that can benefit from a good laugh or cry with us. Please rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and we would greatly appreciate you.